Doing? Welcome to live stream number 98. Today is the 28th of November 2017. It is 3 p.m. Eastern, and are you ready for some Fusion 360? I hope so. Today's topic is how to model a knife blade in Fusion 360. So we're going to attack that today, and then tomorrow my idea was we will do the handle, and in that way we kind of like did a whole knife. Hope that will be good. Because of today, I am wearing my John Grimsmo t-shirt. If you're not familiar with John, he's a great friend of mine, Fusion 360 user. His link to his website is down in the description area. There's a guy who knows how to make knives, so check that out. Also, at the end of the live stream, we're going to talk more about episode number 100 is coming up and the giveaway with that. But that's going to be in the end, so just hang around for that. Okay, let's talk about how to model up a knife. And I might take some shortcuts as I'm doing this. My main purpose is to show you some tips and tricks in Fusion 360. Not as much as actually creating the perfect knife. But enough of me talking. Let's switch over to Fusion. Okay, so creating a knife. And I was not gonna, my first thought was maybe go in and take one of John's knives, but then, you know, like I said, he makes the coolest knives. I'm not gonna try to copy his stuff. So what I did instead was, well, let's attach a canvas so we have something to kind of like sketch off from when we are creating this knife. I'm just going to select the plane here, select an image, and what I did was I went out, let me just hit OK to this, and go to the right plane. I went out and I found a knife, a buck knife. This, I don't know, I've gotten some requests for creating knives from different people. And being a little bit selfish, this would probably have been the knife that I would pick when I was a Boy Scout for, I don't know, a month back in Denmark when I was a kid. But today we're going to focus on kind of like creating the knife, blade itself. And then tomorrow we can go in and play a little bit with the handle. And tomorrow I was planning on both showing it the model way and the sculpting way. Okay. So with that set up, I'm just going to go out and delete this image again. Now you're kind of like seeing what we've done. So the way that you've seen me creating this kind of stuff before is by starting out creating a sketch. And then I normally create some kind of a rectangle that kind of like where this knife is going to fit within this perimeter. And then when I place that rectangle, I fully define it, then I will place what I just did before, insert, attach canvas, and then you can kind of drag and move it around and kind of like scale it to fit within that. So that's what I've done when you've seen me do stuff before. But as many people have said in the live stream comments and in the YouTube comments afterwards, is that there's other ways to do this, and that is true. Another way to do this is, I just deleted everything so we're back to scratch. Insert your canvas, select the face, select the knife here, hit open to that. So there kind of like is the knife. Now you have different options over here how you want to control all this, but if I just hit OK, then I get a canvas folder over here, and if I right click on it, there is a Calibrate Canvas. And what that will do is when you click on that, you actually get a measuring tool. So what I can do is I can kind of like select the tip on the knife here, left click once, and kind of like the back end back here, and you will see that I get a measuring a dimension up here. So now the canvas will kind of like scale to whatever I say that is. Now we're going to do this in metric, but actually I just know that this knife is 8 inches. So I'm gonna do 8, and then I'm just gonna hit space, IN for inches, hit enter, and well, that's how you can kind of scale that out. Now, I also like to go up and turn my origin on, because you see that I kind of like just threw it in here. It's good to have your origin placed somewhere where it kind of makes sense. You can, of course, right click again. You can hit edit canvas, and now I can kind of like move my canvas around to where I want that origin. I am not a professional knife maker, so it probably, you know, some people have different preferences. Maybe I should have reached out to John before this, and instead I'm just wearing a t-shirt. But this gives, you know, wherever you want to place it. I'm going to place it right up here where the kind of like the handle and the top of the knife meet each other, for no other reason that I think that that's good. Okay. Now, another thing I'm going to do here, and then we're going to get into modeling this, but I just wanted to set this up. The other thing we're going to talk about is rule number 1 on the forum. This knife, are we going to make this knife as different components, or are we just going to make it out like one body? And when would you do that? Well, if you were going to make this knife in real life, we can see that it is some different components. There's a knife blade. There's kind of like this brass with a little black, I don't know, maybe leather strip in there, and another brass, and then we got a handle and a couple of other ones here. If you were going to make this in real life and kind of like have it all broken down into drawings and different things like that, you might start out by creating the new components as you go along. So just right click on the top up here and say I'm going to create a new component, and then I could name this one, and that could be, you know, the blade, and I could actually just move on as I am in here right now and kind of like create all the different components in here. However, if you're like me, sometimes you will forget to do that, and then I want to show you tomorrow how we can actually work with that. So I'm going to choose to not creating all the different components. I will also say this, that if I was going to create this knife just as a demonstration, not for actually manufacturing, I probably would just create it out of one body and not all the different components, just because, you know, it's all assembled anyways. Who really cares? So I just want to bring this up as things to think about before you get too far into to modeling things up. So if we were following the best rule practices, people would tell you right now, if you could use this for manufacturing, you would right click up here and create each of the components. I'm not going to do that for this, just to show you how it would look if you don't. Okay? With this, let's get going here. So we're going to start out sketching out kind of like the outline of this handle here. Now, I will also say that we have different options when we're working with this. We could do this entire out of lines and arcs. And somebody just sent me an email the other day about how to control splines when they are when you want to fully define them. Well, let me show you. So I'm going to go up here where the origin is and start this knife blade. And I'm going to use splines for this. So I'm going to go ahead here and just start sketching on this face here, and place a spline point wherever you kind of like think that there needs to be kind of like a variation for this. So I'm just going to move down and go down on the tip here and place one there, and where I kind of think that this big arc is ending, probably where about this is ending here. And then I'm just going to hit the green check mark to stop here for a second. So what you can see we got here is, well, it's not right even where we want it. Well, that's why we have all these spline handles. I'm just going to hit escape to get out of this. Now, all these spline handles, you can drag. We've done them before. So, you know, you shouldn't be, if you're brand new to the live stream, look at some of the other live streams we've done where we use this. Now, one of the things that I favor to do is to add relationship to some of these. So I will go over and create a horizontal to this one right up here, because I think that it probably starts pretty well right there maybe. And you know, then we can start kind of like moving each of these spline handles and see if we can get something that is close to that shape. Okay, so we can move this one down a little bit. We can like create these different handles, and we can kind of like see if we can get somewhat close to something that we need here, right? So you can kind of like see here how I can kind of play around with this. This actually might have to go up like that. And if you are to a position here where ever you want it, just about there, it might take playing around with it a little bit, right? As you can see, I'm kind of like trying to somewhat match these different spline handles. Now this one down here, I'm actually going to make that horizontal too. You can always delete these relationship twos if you want to. Just remember that, right? So horizontal, there. Okay. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm using what I call the manufacturing methods for making this knife blade, and that is the method where, you know, I think I'm just gonna, it's not perfect, but I think I'm just gonna let it end here. Now you will see that I stopped my sketch down here just to make it a little bit easier. It looks like that this turns into become like a couple of arcs and some lines. I might just decide to create some straight ahead lines, and maybe I just draw a line straight over to about here, come up somewhere around here, and then I can draw, normally there's probably a piece that goes inside the handle. So I'm just going to draw that up. Make sure that I kind of like maybe goes up to the end there, and then close it off. Okay. So what we have now is we kind of like have the spline that goes around here. Now I decided I'm just going to extend it over here and then kind of like make this the blank that goes inside of the handle here. Now I might have to add some relationships in here, like horizontal relationship to this one maybe, looks like. And of course these in here we can definitely add some dimensions to it. Now anytime if you feel like the canvas is in your way, you can just click the light bulb and you kind of like see what we have drawn up so far. So I'm actually probably going to do some dimensions right now from my origin and say that this one here, and I'm just going to, in this case here, I'm just going to round it up a little bit. This one here probably is going to be 10. We can make this line here, let's make this one 12, right? So we kind of get that set up here. Now we can also make that these two lines can be collinear, just like that. There might be some radiuses in here too. I don't know. We're going to leave it flat here. Now when we come to these splines, you can absolutely go ahead and start defining these splines. What you would have to do is you would actually, if we're going to do this spline point, we would have to create a dimension from the origin to this point. Whoops, not right. Sorry, I'm sorry, I just right mouse button. So we would have to create a dimension from here to fully define it. We would also have to create a dimension over the overall length here. You know, again, if this is not totally horizontal, so it can take a lot to fully define splines. Now, I normally don't do that. What I do is I right-click on the spline and I use the fix, and that will turn the spline green, what means it's kind of locked down, but not with dimensions. So right-click and you can fix or you can unfix on the spline there. Okay. So this kind of like fully defines the sketch. Now again, you could choose to do a dimension from the end, so you can like whatever much control you want over this knife edge. Now at this point, I'm going to give it some thickness. So I'm going to hit Q, and I'm just going to do the press pull. Now let me rotate a little bit. Since the way we are modeling this up here, I'm actually going to go over and select symmetry. And then I kind of like can go this way here and give the knife some thickness to it. Now this blank, you know, this is kind of like the blank size that you would start out with. That's kind of like how I prefer to kind of like starting out with something like that. Turn the canvas back on, and we kind of have the outside shape here. Now another trick that you need to know about, some different tricks. This is kind of hard to see now after we extruded this out. Be aware of, if you go to the bodies folder and you right click on the body, make sure you know that you can change the opacity for this solid. So now suddenly it's still there, but and you can select it for your sketching, but now we can actually see kind of like our sketch behind it, or our picture behind it up there, right? So that's kind of like looking pretty good. Now we know we need to remove some material down here, but the rest of the shape fine for what I'm trying to show you here. So at this point, let me turn the bar, well, leave this on. One thing that I actually looked up how Buck makes their knives. So one of the things they do in the soft state is that they put in the Buck seal. So we could definitely do that. That would be kind of easy. So I'm just going to right click on the face. Now, and again, I went in here and right clicked the body and changed the opacity in here to 50%. So it doesn't look, so I can still look through it. Right click, I can still select it. And open a new sketch, go over to text, over here. And we can then select the text here and type that in. So I'm just going to type in Buck. And of course, it's way, way big. We can, I don't know, 2. No, that's way too small. 4. 4 is pretty good, huh? You can make it bold. This is actually just Windows font. You could change all the different fonts in here. I'm just going to leave it at Arial. It's pretty close. Drag the arrow a little bit. It's still a little big. 3 maybe? Yeah, that's pretty good there. Hit OK, and now I can hit Q and I can extrude that text. Move it over a little bit, either out, or in our case, it's going to be a cut, right? So we can go minus, I don't know how much we go, 0.5. That might be good enough. Okay, let me go over and right click on the body, opacity control. Oops, make it a 100. And we kind of got that in there. That's a little deep. Always go down, right click and edit. The feature here, minus 0.25 maybe. That's good. Okay. All right. So with this here, what do we want to do next? Well, let's go back in and change the opacity control to like 40 or 50. So we can actually kind of like see through there. We have, well, we got to do that bevel, right? Or the cutting edge in there. For that, I am going to use sweep. Now, I want to keep this somewhat short. So this is maybe where it takes a little bit of a shortcut for this. Because when they actually are grinding these knives, they're actually grinding them in 3-dimensional. Meaning that not only are they moving, you know, kind of like in that swoopy surface, they're actually also moving towards the center a little bit. If you have a hunting knife like this, grab it and take a look at that. Now, I like to kind of like help myself with some reference dimensions. So I want my sweep to start right here. So I'm going to right click and open a sketch on that face. So that way I can create a line about wherever that intersection is right there. And I'm just going to go all the way down to the bottom there. Hit X on my keyboard to make it a construction line. And I want to actually dimension that line. So I'm going to hit D for dimension and make sure that I get that fully defined. So it's 12. Let's start on 12. 12.5. I want it to be pretty close. Yep. And let's also do the vertical dimension here. Let's make it 10. That's close enough. So now I know where that kind of like starts right there. Now, when it comes to actually, there's a couple different ways we can do this. What I probably will do is I will create an offset plane. So let's finish this, stop this sketch right now. Do an offset plane from here and go out that 12.5. Because then I know that I'm cutting right where I made that point. And we could start a sketch right here. Right click, create a sketch. And now we're kind of like looking at it from the front there. And then I could start sketching up my cutting edges. Now normally they're sharp, then they go out a certain degree, and then they kind of like go up further. Now look at this. I'm going to sketch outside my profile a little bit, just like that. Because I want to make sure that I actually attach that to that point I created. So click a coincident and select this one to that one right there. I want to make sure that I'm hitting right at that point. That might have actually changed my corner down here. Drag that out, okay? And now I could actually probably, what would make sense would be to either mirror or just, this is just two lines, draw this over here and kind of like replicate what we have over there. Let's put some dimensions on this D, and if you ask John, he will tell you exactly what that angle is right there. I have no idea, I'm just guessing. Let's make it 5, like that. So now that is fully defined. And then we could go over and do equal this one to this one and this one to this. Whoa. Control undo, equal this one to this one. There we go. Okay. Now, if you see, it's still blue, so something is still not right. Well, look at this. This can move up and down here. So I didn't establish this connection over there. So we're going to do that. So we're going to make these two horizontal like that. Now it turns black. Make sure you get those sketches black, right, friends? Okay. So this is going to be our kind of like our profile cut here that we're gonna cut away. And now it maybe gets a little hard to kind of see where we are going to end up. I'm just going to exit out of this sketch for a second. And actually, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the opacity control back on here so we can kind of like just see it a little bit better. So we kind of like have this section here. And then we're going to make a sweep here. Now, the path for this, when we're doing the sweep, we have a profile, we have a path. That's going to be kind of like be that edge right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open another sketch, right click. Oops. I'm going to open another sketch on that face. And I'm going to hit P for project. And I'm going to borrow a little bit of these edges here. I'm going to borrow this edge here. Now this one here became a continuous spline. And I actually don't want to follow this one entirely. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to hit, It's always good when I do this on the fly, right? When I haven't prepared. So let's create a spline right here that goes out to here. Because I kind of like wanted to extend. I want to make sure that spline point snaps into that arc right there. Then I'm going to try to trim. Oh, I can't do that. I can't trim it because it's a... Well, let's see what happens. I might have to break this spline up, maybe. Let's finish that up. Let's go into our sweep. And you'll see that I have a hard time selecting in here. If you hold down the left mouse button for a second, then it will actually come up and show you the different profiles. I'm going to select this profile, and I didn't get that other edge over there, so I can't do that right now. That's okay, I'm going to test it just for now then. See, if I select this spline, is it going to select the entire... spline, chain selection, turn that off. It is going to select this entire spline profile. That is going to give me an issue for sure. Okay. Let's see here. Let's go back into this here, edit. Let's right click on this spline here and say break link. Now this was a projected edge. Break link. Now that actually just became a other spline by itself and not projected anymore. So let's go in and hit trim. And now we can trim that away there. Okay, let's test that out now. So, create, sweep, hold down left mouse button until this little pop-up menu comes up. It will show you the profile. Go down and select path. And let's try to select this edge. Well, this looks pretty good right now, so far. This edge. Now, it doesn't want this profile right here. Let me turn chain selection off. See, this is a good sign, but this is not a good sign. So it doesn't really like how I have that piece of geometry right there, I think. It's always good when I struggle, right? Edit sketch. See, if I delete that piece, what is it gonna do now? So let's try sweep. Hold down left mouse button till that little pop-up menu shows up. That there. See, that looks pretty good. The only problem we have right now, it doesn't want to go the other way. It will go this way, okay. What is pretty good? I thought it would go both ways. All right. I'm going to do a Control Z. Get that line piece back on there. Create sweep. Hold down the left mouse button. There. It doesn't like that extra piece I put on there. Okay, that's fine. Let's go back in and edit that. Delete that. Now when we have this as a spline, see, I can move it out because now it's kind of like its own thing. Yeah, now your guess is about good as mine. So don't want to let me snatch that. Oh, I started a third sketch, sorry. My mistake. Right click, edit sketch. No, that's the wrong sketch. Right click, edit that sketch. I would have thought that we would be able to create a spline coming out of there, but it might be because it's actually intersecting itself. I'll try one more time. Create, sweep. All right, so there it actually does kind of like cut it right there. Will it do the back? It won't let me select the back end. That's okay. All right, so that shows me that that works. Now what happens if I go back into that first sketch over here and borrow that line there? Right click, sweep. Hold down left mouse button, that one, and then select this line. Now it should come all the way through there. I'm not sure why I won't select the... Oh, I didn't select that little back edge. There's my path. Or did I just trim that piece? Normally you can select more than one piece of the path. All right, let's just hit OK. And see what we got. So if I hide the picture, you will see that we actually have a a decent edge right here. But you see how it's kind of like here it becomes flat, and you're thinking like, what the heck? Why is it looking like that? Well, it is actually because the way I did this original spline. So I'm gonna fix this. We're gonna roll back to our original spline. Remember that original spline right there? See, I should have, instead of doing it at one big spline, if I had broken this into different splines, it would actually have been a little bit better. So that was my mistake. So let's go in, edit the sketch, select this spline here, turn the canvas back on. So if I had gone in and done a spline from here and to about there, hang on. Oh, I can't see it for the picture now. Down to that point and hit OK. And then I think if I start another one, so now it's gonna be like that, hit OK. Now we can kind of like do what I did before. We can play around with the different settings. All right, I should probably practice a little bit more on this one, huh, guys? Well, that is why I like live streams. Well, actually, maybe now the profile becomes better. That is interesting, isn't it? Okay, I'm gonna end it right there. Now, when we go back here, we will see that this sketch here. Oh, so here we can get another. See how this one is yellow? Right click. You can say review warning, and it has an issue with the projected curve was lost. So right click, edit sketch, and you'll actually see that it's kind of like yellow over here. We could probably just try to delete that. See, now it's not an issue anymore, and then I can project it again. It just a little lost its edge. Okay. So that was that. Now let's try this one more time. This is like, I'm going to open up a sketch here. I'm going to project. So now we're just getting that little edge. I'm going to project that too. Okay. Let's see now. Right click, sweep. And, oh, did I lose? Did we lose our profile? Did I delete the profile? Oh, it is right in there. Sweep. Oh, it's not appearing. Turn the sketch on. There we go. This one, select our path here. There we go. So now it seems like it's cutting all the way back to our zero edge. Let's hit OK. Let's hide our image, and let's see, hide a couple of these sketches. And let's see, now we kind of like got that knife edge right there. Now a couple of things, like I said, if we are looking at the canvas and we turn our body opacity back down to 0 here, you will see, I don't know if you can see, like how my curve is going straight up here, where the one in the picture actually is following kind of like this line here. That is because that it's actually cutting, I am making a sweep. My sweep line is straight, where in the real world that blade would actually kind of like narrow in up at the top. We could have tried to create a 3D spline to see if we could have pulled it in with a guide curve, but you know what? I think I had enough I think I had enough fun out of this one. I think that looks fairly decent for a knife blade right there. Let's turn the origin off there. Turn the canvas maybe back on. So that's where I'm going to leave today's live stream. We got a knife blade right here. Maybe the only thing we'll do is right click, hit appearance, and change this to chrome maybe. Yeah, that's better. Tomorrow, I want to show you how we can now go in and make the handle. And we're going to do that both with the loft command, what will be kind of like the modeling way, and we will go into the sculpting workspace also and play around with that a little bit in that too. So like I said before, I didn't create components straight out. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. So I kind of like did it all as one body. We're going to kind of like play with that tomorrow. Last thing here is maybe just hitting save and call this one the knife. We're going to call it the Buck knife. Good old brand here. Save that one. Okay, I hope I hope that was somewhat useful. A couple of tricks I got to show there in the middle of that. I hope it was not too hard to follow. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up. Maybe I should have practiced a little. Last thing before we end, the 100 episode is coming up on Thursday. Did do a T-shirt draw. Curtis have been kind enough to share one of these cool work fusion shirts. It's like a Dixie, what means it's like more like shop kind of material. If you want to have a chance to get that shirt, it's really easy. All you have to do is go down the description area and you will find a link to Service Monkey. There's 3 questions I'm asking you. How are you using Fusion 360? Did you pay for it? Are you a hobbyist, startup, whatever? How many videos are you watching here on the channel during the week? So are you watching once a week? Are you following all of them? And the last one is, what is your favorite topic? Then, as many people have done, I give you an opportunity to spill your guts. Any kind of suggestions, anything that needs to be corrected, anything you would rather see here on this live stream, let me know. You don't have to do this. But if you want to, you can. These live streams are really created to try to add some value to you. So this is your chance to give me your feedback, your name and your email, and then we will draw on Thursday a person to get the free shirt. That email is absolutely secure with me. You are not going to get any spam. This email address is just from I'm the only one who's going to see it. Thank you so much, folks. I hope that this was so much useful. And knife blade in Fusion 360. I'm going to do what I'm normally going to do. I'm going to end the broadcast. If you're watching the recording, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And jump in the live stream and say hi to everybody. Take care.